Welcome to the grim, lawless 23rd century, following the fall of U.S. Gov and mass depopulation of major cities at the hands of the multi-trillionaire de Huberton family. Baptized in radioactive hellfire, a rare mutation makes Turbo a fiercely pumped scrapper, haunted by specters from her past, surviving the post-apocalyptic wasteland one deathmatch pit fight at a time. But when she rescues the stunning trophy girl, the unlikely duo are thrust into a harrowing odyssey, evading marauding berserkers at every turn on their way to the ultimate showdown as they uncover the horrific truth behind the fall of humanity. Jake Jacobs, writer and penciler, and Kurt Brugel, co-writer and inker, are thrilled to announce the release of the first Turbo teaser, a significant milestone in the indie comic book industry. Jake and Kurt are the first and only duo to create a comic book live on air in a split-screen podcast. But that's not all. Recognizing the challenges and triumphs of indie comic creators, Kurt and Jake have another recurring segment of their podcast spotlighting other indie comic creators who share their stories, discuss their creative process, offer insights into audience building, and ponder the future of comics.
Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Mr. Kurtster. I am. Yeah, we just had a couple of technical debugging problems that we had to work out because we're on this software and like everything keeps changing every week. Like 1 minute I'm like real zoomed in, the next minute I'm lefty righty. I'm in reverse. People, you're watching this. I'm looking at my own artwork on the screen in reverse. So, what's up with that? And we're just working around it. So we're dealing with all the curveballs that we're getting thrown at with technology. But people should not be deterred. People should persevere.
Nope.
And I'm going to get to. I think I started a new page. I finally finished page 16 that I was on, and that's here. And I got down to the bottom. I did leave some open dialogue, and for people interested in process, I think this is kind of smart. I have some dialogue here, and then I left some extra room here, so I can put dialogue in all the way up to the last minute. To clarify things, or maybe when I just look at this later with fresh eyes, I'll, there's something better I can put in there about, conveying parts of the story. And if anybody has any suggestions for what I should put there, but I just finally finished the pharmacy scene, and Turbo is going to be scooting back to the orphanage, and so I'm going to be starting page 17 now. Can you believe it? And I already started it right.
Along. And that is issue 2, everybody, because I'm on page 10 of issue 1, but I had done preliminary inking through 22, so I've got all this black outline work already there with some spotting blacks, but then I go through and do my gray valuing. So we're moving along. I'm in 2 more pages that I end up inking, and then we're in another Turbo teaser. So we'll have another 7. We need 7. No, I'm sorry, 7 pages. So
yeah, and Kurt is
4 more pages then. Oops.
Yeah, Kurt has finally gotten to that very intricate scene where they shoot every bottle on the wall. Kurt, one thing I know, I don't know what percentage done you are, but one thing I've been noticing on your highlights is they seem kind of harsh. I would feather them in if that was me, so that the fade between midtones to bright white.
You're talking about like on arms and these kinds of stuff. Yeah, you're right about that. though and I'm going to work on it. So I'm not going to push back, but at the same time, one of the struggles I'm having, just in this methodology I'm going about, is trying to kind of create some focal white shapes, as you're
Yeah.
moving along. I mean, obviously the balloons are one thing, but, yeah, I mean, I could
So that's
feather.
great. Yeah.
I'm totally good with it, but it's something I'm playing around with. I don't want to.
Yeah, well, that it's sometimes it's just a choice of style, but I always tell my students a good rule of thumb is to, um, when do you stop shading? Because in comics, black and white comics, we've seen all those undergrounds where it's like, okay, this guy has too many rendering styles on one page. This guy has too much.
I I
No, I'm
like
not.
that though. In Power Comics, the really good Power Comics, that might be an
Right. They
oxymoron, but
applaud that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it's but I mean they are well rendered, whether they're good or not. I think as the individual, whoever's reading it's take on it, but yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so I would say like what you're saying about having kind of like a layer of white, like you do, like what's great, those limbs that you have, they all point, towards turbo, right? They're all kind of
Correct,
like
correct.
radial.
Yep,
The highlights accentuate, turbo's dive on the next panel. Um,
yep.
but you could what I'm saying is you could use like my tendency is like I would just jump right in with a high tech C, and I would um, close those in so that there's only a tiny like a river of white left, and that's what I always tell my students, like never cover in all the white, always have some white.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going for a 50-50 balance. That's what I say, like when kids are really just learning, like let's put balance, like try to get you know a dark side and a light side on every face, every arm, every leg, every finger, every leaf on a tree. But when you're pro, and you're Kurt Brugel, you're making decisions. What do I want to do in this panel? What's the mood? What's the feel? What are the pencils Jake gave me? And where am I taking it from here? So I see what you just did. What you just did was a massive improvement on the legs. Like whatever you
Yeah,
just
right
did.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just a little bit of a white color pencil and a little bit of the
there you go.
Posca,
Yeah.
and there's modeling in there, but one of the things I'm also dealing with is as maybe some of the color from the inks kind of help,
Mm-hmm.
um, create some molding things. This all goes flat black. It's just black printed on white. So I mean, we're printing on the teasers are on a cream yellow, but I'm also playing with that in my head. I'm thinking more along the lines of having like whatever it ends up doing in the printing process is what I'm after.
Yeah, and I would definitely, and what you're doing with that, like that layer of subliminal, like pulling the eye, I would
Yeah.
subliminalize it. I mean, I don't know whatever you just started doing. That's the absolute correction that I'm looking for, because it's your style, but it also de-harshifies
Yeah.
all those arms and limbs. And if you are you know looking at a page and say, hey, the action's over here, like even if you're taking attention from another panel and pointing it to something, though all that subliminal stuff really has an effect on the reader. They might just, I mean, if it's subliminal, they don't know it, and sometimes the artist doesn't even know it. Sometimes it's just like reflexive or instinctual, but we're talking about it here. So um
Yeah, no, it's we're I'm kind of lost for words in only saying that we're professionals, but we're also doing this for ourselves. So it's one thing to think about making something that appeases somebody that would hire you, to making something where you're challenging yourself in your own sense of growth. Because what I'm after is literally value systems in order to create a comic book look and feel, not just the straightforward, black ink, white paper, cross hatching, spotting blacks, maybe zipatones for values here and there. So it's just a personal choice that I've been making lately. And I know I'll probably end up, because I've been looking at a lot of people's work on, especially Instagram, where they're just doing things with just black line on white paper, and it gets me excited. So
Yeah.
We'll
Right.
see. We'll see.
Right, and those are kind of the things that we're going to talk about when we review other comics, and especially other black and whites, is the rendering styles and the different zipatones. I mean, for Turbo, I think we're both in agreement that we only have human zipatone going on, right?
Yeah.
Kurt is human zipatone.
I
But
am. Because I hate cutting it all out. I hate it.
Well,
it was one of the reasons
just,
I stopped doing airbrushing. I hated masking.
Yeah, but it's not just that. Like for me, what I think when somebody's reading, a comic like ours, and then you just turn a page, you flip a page, and then you see zipatone in there. To me, it's like the equivalent of silicone breasts. It's like,
what?
It's just like, what does it belong? What does it belong? It doesn't belong there. It's unnatural.
You're saying if it's not used properly.
Yeah, I mean, we've already established a style. We're pages and pages and pages into this. We've already established style. If you're going to do zipatone, you got to do it on page 2 or 3. Otherwise, it's going to catch people off guard, and anything that distracts people from the story, they're supposed to be in an escape. They're supposed to be in a fantasy realm. And then, if they say things like, "Oh, the anatomy's off here," or "Oh, they started you," or how about like they use that zipatone with the really big dot pitch, right? And
yeah.
And I hate that. I'm at the comic store yesterday, because every time I eBay something, I stop off at Newberry Comics, and I just look at that shelf like new arrivals, and sometimes it's only like a quick check-in, but I see that a lot of these comic artists today are using this filter where you have the halftone dots kind of like artificially put in there.
Yeah. There's a app you can get now.
Yeah, I mean, we use it on our promo, don't we? Or we use it on some of our video stuff. Right?
Well, I had played with it. I had come up with my own version in Photoshop.
Right.
This is right in the beginning. Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah, they've had the halftone screen filter for decades in Photoshop, and you could also set it. It's great because you can set like the angle of CMYK. That's a big deal if you're angling it, because sometimes you want to avoid moire patterns, and sometimes you want to create a moire pattern because the look you're going for is improperly done comics from the olden days. You're trying to get that look back. It's so funny. Like, it's the same thing. Like, kids today, they're looking at old VHS tapes, and they see all the glitches and the imperfections, and they go, "Oh, that is so cool! How can I add that? How can I add that to my iPhone?"
Yeah, but when you got that, you rented that tape for $5 or whatever, that VHS, and you took it home, and you really, really wanted to see it, and it was really shot to hell.
Yeah,
you weren't happy about that.
No, but that was it back in the day where we were looking for as best quality as we can. Now, it dates it, and it puts it in that time capsule, and
right.
Right, and we might hate that, but the kids nowadays are like, wow, how do
Well,
you get that?
nostalgia is all of the rage. I mean, it
Right.
just seems that that's really the aesthetic is how can I look, sound, and feel like I'm in, 19 XXX,
Yeah,
it's just
in the 1900s. Yeah.
something, or just no, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s,
Yeah.
1960s. I've been reading a lot of I find myself gravitating between 1968 to 1973. Just stuff I'm ingesting and
Of course.
digesting is it. I just there's so much. I mean, even in
Well,
movies,
duh, because
it's just
you were an impressionable developing toddler back then, and those are your wonder
yeah,
years, right? And
yeah.
everything you
Well,
took,
they're
everything you
they're
took in, everything you observed, kind of like got buried because you weren't old enough, to go out and buy things
I'll
and
tell you this though. I'll tell you this. This is they had no restrictions. That's really what I find to be. They seem to have the ability to dodge censorship or at least some type of hey you shouldn't do or say that and this goes back to the B movie stuff or as we have said, in description, it's that exploitation. But even that was used to get you to, go and see the movie, or then when we were renting them in the 80s, um, you know, that was one
yeah,
of the reasons you were getting it. It
for
was the
anybody
aesthetic.
for anybody that's listening to this, that think we're a bunch of old codgers, from another generation. You gotta rent the original Death Wish with Charles Bronson,
Whoa,
because
yeah.
because it captured a moment in New York City, where crime was indeed out of control, and there was a feeling like, wouldn't it be great? It was a fantasy. That wouldn't it be great if there was a vigilante out there just like blowing everybody to pieces, and that's what the movie's about. But there is, a pretty, graphic scene, in the beginning of the movie, and Charles and movies like and a lot of movies in that era, early 1970s, had scenes that would be considered inconceivable in today's movies. I mean, when's the last time you saw a graphic scene in a movie? It's just the sensibilities have shifted, and there was a lot of pushback from creatives because producers like Russ Meyer and a lot of other producers that were working between the 60s to the 70s saw this shift, and they were just like fascinated how violence and gore was okay, but sex wasn't, sexuality wasn't, like different expressions of sexuality, whether it was consensual or non-consensual, that would get you banned, or that would get you an X rating, or that would
Thrown in jail.
thrown in jail, or the distributor of the movie would get thrown in jail, and all these things were really happening just for artistic expression. I mean, yeah, I would think that if a movie has something in it that's too hardcore, that you just give it an R or X rating, and so people are fair warned, and then it's still art, and people can go see it. But no, they would be like, okay, this is obscene in Alabama or Mississippi, and we are going to start arresting people. The director, the distributor, and movie owners. When they would round up movie owners, that was the worst because they didn't do anything. They were like, I didn't make this movie. I might have not even seen it. Before I just bring it into my theater. So
So
it was
here's a fun word to play with topically.
yeah.
Taboo.
Yeah, and these are not hard and firm, answers. And even when it comes to the law, because when you get 12 people sitting in a jury, they can decide anything, and they're supposed to interpret the law. But you know when there was obscenity trials that went to the Supreme Court, the most famous kind of like biting, ironic statement that came out of it was when they were asking the conservatives on the court, that were in favor of government censorship of art, was like, they said, well, what is obscenity? And he goes, well, I know it when I see it.
Yeah, yep. That was Senator Jesse Helms.
Oh, right. Okay. So that was during hearings, but I'm also thanks for correcting. But I was also alluding to court rulings that got handed down, because there were people on trial, and Jesse Helms was leading what was this, Focus on the Family, or some kind of organization.
It was a crusade.
Like that.
It was a crusade. Save our children from obscenity.
He was trying to purify our local movie theaters and magazine stores and comic shops, but now we're seeing the exact same thing in the schools with the banning of a graphic novel of The Diary of Anne Frank, to me, and the banning of
How about Mouse?
Yeah, the banning of Mouse by Art Spiegel.
That is. I think that is definably insanity. It makes.
It is.
And I think the saddest part about it is none of these people are actually taking the time to read the material. I think that's the thing that just breaks me down into little pieces, is that you can make a judgment call on something or somebody and not spend 3 minutes of your time. Just crack it open. It's like meeting somebody and not feeling quite comfortable with them yet. But just take a second and ask them a question. If they answer the question, not in a way that you feel like you can maintain a civil conversation with them, then say, hey, thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, and move on. But censoring
The Diary of Anne Frank is ridiculous. These were the real life impressions of a kid that was trapped in a freaking attic, and they were hiding for their lives, and she also doesn't make it at the end, and so all these things are really interesting points of discussion, and there's no answer. Even today, when I was at Forbidden Planet, they have the little shelf of zines and indie comics, and kind of like Anything Goes comics. And I saw some stuff on there that would curl your hair, Kurt. And there's this one creator out there, and he has this kind of like semi-adult title out there, where it's this very weird kind of like world where this like females live, and it's kind of like a bizarre, like Salvador Dali type world. And then I was like, oh, this guy's got an interesting art style, and some of his stories are out there, because it's very, very like high concept artistic stuff. But then I saw elsewhere on the shelf, he had some like seriously pornographic stuff, and it was some of the harshest stuff I've ever seen in my life. And
can you give a kind of an example without being too graphic of what you mean is like some of the harshest stuff you've ever seen in your life? Because I can imagine you have seen some harsh stuff.
Yeah, just real like kind of non-consensual storylines, and really shock value things. I think the the later, like, it seems like he's selling and I think he has a wife that works for him too. I think their non-X-rated stuff is selling for real, and then his other stuff was.
Who is this?
Kind of languishing on stuff.
Well,
I'll next time I go down there, I'll jot down the name that time.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying, like, you and I know that from from the 90s. You know, when sexuality, you know, was kind of like opening up because of the advent of the videotape. Like everybody was just, you know, renting these videos and doing their own, you know, thing at home. You know, it kind of changed, you know, the game. I mean, you know, that was mainstream. Everybody had like a rental place and they were just privately doing their thing at home, and, you know, nobody had to know. There was a movement in the comic industry, you know, to kind of mirror that, you know, where there was a lot of comics that they weren't really underground. They were just sex comics. But you know, that came and went, and you know, you might people might remember, like, Penthouse started putting out comics, and Hustler started putting out comics, and you know, it kind of you know, comes and goes, and you know, now I would say, you know, that kind of stuff is off the shelf, you know, because the distributors, you know, they might still carry it, but they don't put it in the mainstream catalogs, and the retailers don't put that stuff out on the shelves generally. Maybe like in New York they do, but you know, like Forbidden Planet where I was, and you know, and the backlash, you know, in small towns, you know, for these retailers, you know, just selling this stuff at all, might be an issue. You know, I guess it depends town to town. But the you know, what brought us into this conversation was, we were talking about the art styles, and you know, when the underground artists were just like kind of opening up and just doing their thing content wise, they were also doing their thing, you know, drawing wise, and there was all these different styles you would see. You know, some experimental, you know, some would be a style. I mean, you know, the artists in Zap comics, you know, made names for themselves, but you know, the styles of Spain and Moscoso are just like really
S.
out
Clay
there.
Wilson. S. Clay
As Clay
Wilson, I
Wilson,
find he's the one. I mean, even R. Crumb is known to say that when he saw S. Clay Wilson's work and how he worked from just a completely uninhibited perspective, he just like,
yeah,
that's what I want to do.
yeah. Talk about uninhibited. You know, as I'm raising money for our artists that we're good that you know, I hope to find in for the B movie She Devil comic, um, I'm selling a lot of stuff on eBay. And I sold, a couple weeks ago, or a couple days or weeks ago, I sold a copy of the East Village Other, which was an
Wow.
underground. Yeah, I still have a copy left here, but I sold a
How much
copy
did you
of
get for that?
only like $17, because it was, the condition was really, you know, it was like splitting apart. So whoever buys it is going to have to just like photograph it the one time, and you know, I think every time you handle it, it's just going to be turning to pulp.
Mush.
But I sold two copies. Well, I have one here still left, but so I think I had three. But one of the issues was called the cartoon issue, and it had a very special, you know, cartooning section for Vaughn Baudet and Robert Crumb and Kim Deitch and all of the like famous underground cartoonists, and they were all being spotlighted here in the East Village Other, and I didn't read the whole thing. I just took a couple of photos of it and put it online. But when I sold it, I took one last look through it because, you know, I wanted to take pictures of the Vaughn Baudet pages. There was two big like splash pages from Vaughn Baudet, um, and I was looking at the Robert Crumb page, and you know, there was like there was an issue of Zap. I think it was Zap 4, where they had to take it off the stands because Robert Crumb had like little children involved in sex and cartoons, and you know, it was just cartoony style, and it was just like, you know, kind of like shock value in your face. But you know, that was definitely a bridge too far. And you know, Zap number 4 is legendary. If I have the right number, Zap number 4 was legendary because of that controversy. And you know, Robert Crumb, you know, defends it. He said, "Well, I was trying to, you know, shock everybody. I was trying to slap everyone in the face. He was doing like, you know, this parody of like a happy family, like you know, the Cleavers and everything." but he was having them all have sex, and and it got a little too far when he's showing like the kid in diapers too. So the East Village Other had that too. It must have been made in the same era, and so I shipped this thing off, and I was like, "Hoo boy." The guy that's going to get this is going to be like, wow. And these things are like inconceivable nowadays, right? And there's been lots of articles on Robert Crumb and the documentary, and
a lot of
you know
interviews,
right? And his brutal honesty, in his self-reflection in his work and his views on women and sexuality. Some women cancel him. Some people say, well, it's a reflection of the time. It all depends. I mean, I just admire his drawing style above everything else. I like the way he hatches and his talent for storytelling. And I used to love like Fritz the Cat and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like it's kind of twisted, to do to do stuff like that. And it was a very explosive time. There was literally riots on the streets back then. Talking about 68 and 67, 69, and the Vietnam War was going on, and there was really violent pushback against the government that took a lot of different forms. Including like terrorism and the Weather Underground, and there was some people that were radical in their politics, they were radical in their art, they were radical in their music, and it was definitely a time of change. And meanwhile, Disney's still putting out their movies, and TV is so sanitized, and you know, and Ma and Pa, are portraying this like puritanical kind of sensibility, but the young people were freaking out, right? There was love-ins and runaways and the Summer of Love. If anybody's listening, you don't know, like hundreds of thousands of teenagers ran away in 67 and went to San Francisco, just to be like
Janis Joplin was one of them. She ran away from Texas.
yeah, but she was a little older, but she did the same thing years before, and she became kind of like a blues singer in like coffee houses and stuff.
Yeah.
And when she came back the last time, she became a huge rock star because she was a little bit older, but she knew her audience, and there was all those groups, Jefferson Airplane and Janis Joplin and the Grateful Dead and Quicksilver Messenger Service, and all those guys were out. San Francisco, Haight Ashbury. There was a huge scene out there, and Timothy Leary was out there, like preaching the benefits of taking acid to like look at your situation from outside. And they had tune in, drop out, all those sayings. So by the time me and Kurt come along, we're little kids in the 60s, but we are definitely like drinking in the attitudes, and my mom was 29 in 69, so she was not too old to be part of that, like kind of like pot smoking, hippie culture. And she actually took me and my brother away from my dad to a hippie commune, and we lived with a couple of other moms upstate New York, in this like kind of like rundown like farmhouse. And I lived all that stuff. I was walking around, we were walking around like naked little hippie kids, jumping in natural ponds and streams. And and when I got to school, my hair was like past my shoulders, and and kids with crew cuts would make fun of me and bully me and trip me and stuff. So that's kind of like where I came from. And then I got dropped back in New York City when I was in like second grade, and I was like extremely paranoid of all the crime. Like I didn't want to go into an elevator with anybody. I was just a little kid, and I was coming from the country where I was scared of black widow spiders, and then here I come, and there's just like criminals everywhere. And it was a very dirty city back then. Getting back to the Death Wish thing, it was a very kind of like unsafe time, where like kids were getting buggered and abducted, and I saw all that stuff firsthand. I had people that try to abduct me multiple times, you know, because I was kind of like a street urchin kid. I used to walk around. I had no curfew. Me and my brother were hustlers. We used to like sell crap on the street to people to raise money so we could go play pinball at the Night Owl on Bleecker Street. You know, my mom lived downtown, and that was like a whole other thing. You know, when she moved back from the country, she settled in Soho, and Soho is not what you think of it today. You know, with the restaurants and the galleries and the high rents and everything. It was a rundown Skid Row cobblestone area where there was like abandoned lofts. You know that an artist could rent for like $200 a month, like literally. And you know, it seems incomprehensible. But Debbie Harry of Blondie, and her partner, I think his name is Chris Stein,
Yep.
bought a
Yep.
loft back then for like, you know, for pennies. That's worth probably like $10-20 million today, you know, because, you know, that's what artists were doing in Soho in the early to mid 70s. They were just settling in on these lofts, and there was like abandoned industrial spaces, you know, with like leaky pipes and broken walls, and, you know, elevators that you had to like, you know, you had to operate yourself, you know, with the little hand thing. All kinds of stuff like that was going on. And you know, and my has how New York City has changed. So you know, we're just reflecting all that. And you know, comics, you know, the comics can be very, I guess, expressive of you know, of kind of like sentiments like, you know, is this going to be hard or is this going to be soft? You know, is this going to assault your senses? Is this going to be, you know, kind of like, you know, an easygoing comic? Is this going to be easy listening, or is this going to be, because, you know, even the stuff we're doing here, like, you know, it's going to be pretty violent. There's going to be, you know, lots of different stuff about enslavement, and, you know, there's certainly the trophy girl, you know, is in this story. You know, she's a sex slave that's being kind of just like, you know, passed off from one owner to the other. Um, I'm having trouble zooming out, so I'm going to have to mess with my arm for a second. Before we run out of time, I do want to do my rundown, but I don't know, maybe I should just go handheld for this. Will that be better? I don't know if this is too jiggly, but because my camera is zoomed in so badly, um, I'm not going to
Can
be
you
able
go to
to.
the screen? Can you go to the screen and use your finger to zoom back out?
No,
It's
no,
not like that.
I tried that, yeah, with the pinching. No, all of a sudden, I'm just like way zoomed in. So, what I could do is, how about if we drop this on the floor? Then we might be too zoomed out. What would that look like? Wow, that's not too bad. Okay, just give me a second here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this milk crate of eBay stuff, and then I'm going to get myself a nice surface. And now that should be the right height so we can see these comics. And let's just go handheld while we flip through. So this one, Black Science, is an Image comic. I don't know why I bought it. Oh, because I think anything in the bag was really cheap. Oh yeah, let's get some interesting artwork. Um, Here I got some Air Cells, Dragon Force. What I'm doing right now is just going over part 3 of my haul from the Poughkeepsie Mid-Hudson Comic Con. And I'm just showing Kurt little by little the stuff that I got. Do you know Dragon Force? It looks
I don't
really
remember.
good.
Yeah,
It
it
looks,
is.
it, it
Who's
looks
the
really
art?
good.
Who's the artist?
Keon,
Oh, it is
1988.
Kyo. Oh, wow.
Yeah, good stuff. I might have to. We might have to do a. I have a run of 3. We might have to do a Comics and Influence on that.
Well,
These are
that's
all in the
up
back.
next.
What's it?
We're
Yeah.
recording. We're recording one next, so
Yep.
you've got plenty to choose from.
Plenty. Here's the Marvel True Believers series, and these are just reprints. I'm not sure if these are the ones that do the authentic ads as they appeared. I just saw one of those in the store yesterday with the authentic ads as they appeared, but you can tell that they're reprinted because, like, the way the printing is, it's like, it loses a generation. So this is Fantastic Four. They don't even give you the number of the comic, but this is a Kirby Fantastic Four, so of course I'm going to get that if the price is right. Here's some post Kirby Commandy that I got, and it was marked $15, but I got this for I think $1, number 46. So this is later in the series when he's off. Ernie Chua did the cover, 1976. Here's some more Kirby I got when Kirby comes back to Marvel. He was doing Captain America, and this is some of the best. I mean, look at this cover. This is some of the best Kirby. I think he was being inked by a guy by the name of Dick Ayers back then. I might be wrong, but so I will always pick these up. And these are not long stories. I think this is only like 10 pages, or half the comic is Captain America. But it's some of the best Captain America, just like action sequences you're ever going to see. And then God only knows what the backup story is in here. So it's going to be fun to see. This one I've gotten before. This is Viking Heroes, and look who the cover is by.
That's Frazetta.
Yeah, this is a very rare comic book cover. This looks like it was made for the comics.
Yeah.
And this was Genesis West Publishing, who did also some Kirby stuff, right? I think they did his later run when he was doing Captain, what was it? Captain Victory. Sorry about the glare on this, but very rare to see Frazetta doing a comic cover, and it kind of reminds me of Val Merrick's style. How similar, like Val Merrick is like the comic version of Frazetta. Look at this. This is the best of the Viking hero, the last of the Viking heroes. I'm not sure who the artist was on the inside of this, but I think it was the Thibodeau guy, who was a Kirby inker, and then he became a penciler in his own right. Because I have some copies of this, and I think this is the Viking hero stuff. And this is definitely worth an episode, because the art inside is pretty good and the storytelling is pretty good. There might be some problems with it, but let's try to keep all these together. Here's a Kirby cover. Jack Kirby with Dave Stevens.
What?
And what does that say? Hampton. Does that say Hampton? Down at the bottom there. I don't know if you can make that out. It says Jack Kirby, Dave Stevens, and
I can't see it in the
Heapton, whatever. So yeah, these are definitely worth picking up. They were $2 at the time in cover price. So this is like some real indie stuff, but it was full color and they had big names. And speaking of Jack Kirby, here's one of the Kirby imitators from Mirage Publishing and Next Comics. This is Peter Laird, who is one of the wasn't he one of the Turtle guys, right? No.
Yep, one half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
one
half.
half.
So he puts out this Kirby-esque stupid heroes thing, and the whole thing is done in the style of Jack Kirby. So this is long before Godland and what's the guy's name? Scioli?
Tom Scioli.
Tom Scioli, right? Thank you. Here's a Kirby commander that I didn't have. I don't think so. Number 26. Maybe Kurt and I will go back in and do the other Kirby commandees, but anybody should pick up. I mean, when these are like $1 a piece, this is such a no-brainer. I think I can go online and sell these for a lot more right now. That's why you pay $30 to get into a Comic-Con, is because you're getting some bargains. I didn't have this one either. 22, number 22. At least I don't think so. Or this one, number 21. These just didn't ring bells because I flip through my collection all the time, and I don't remember seeing this big crab monster. So I got a run of Commandees here. This one is in my collection, so I'm just grabbing doubles. But I just upgraded the condition because mine is all messed up, and this one looks like it's VG or better. So for $1, give me a break. How about this one? Number 27. The
Nice
leopards are
cover.
closing in. Yeah, so
Nice.
I don't know why Commandee's so pink. I don't know if you can see the color on this, but whoever's doing the coloring is way off. And then also look at that like orange streak on the left where the Kirby dots kind of trail off, but then the colorist had to make a decision on what to do. So they just kind of like cut a line of I guess magenta ruby lith, and they got mixed with the yellow. It's so weird. And finally, Commandee number 30, where we see the return of Ben Boxer. So that is my haul. I'll have one more installment. Wait, did I show this one yet? I didn't show this one yet. Look at this. Shattered Earth, Eternity Comics.
That was a good comic. I think it was also done digitally. It's one of the first digital comics.
Really?
I think.
Well, yeah, it looks like the background. Well, the background looks like it's like airbrush or something. This is very early Jim Balent, and Jim Balent is a guy that I collect because he ended up working on AC Comics and Flare. And sorry about the glare. Speaking of flares and glares, but he got better and better. This Jim Balent guy, and he was really known for his comics with sultry female characters. So I think he ended up having a much better career than just working in some of these indies. But that is my report, and if Kurt, if you want me to pick any of that for our upcoming episode, I could. Oh wait, I'm not done. I still have what's in the bag because I only had one hand free. Ugh, look at this. I got a couple more. So I will always buy a beat up reader's copy.
Nice.
Here's Barry Windsor-Smith in Conan number 10, and I if I'm getting this for $1, I got no problem with that. It also features Cull the Conqueror, all new stories, the most savage hero of all. This is going to be some great Barry Windsor-Smith in there. And here's another one. Is this Barry Windsor-Smith? Yeah, I think so. Yep. Conan number 20. And here we can see it went from 15 cents? Oh, how is this? Conan number 10 is 25 cents. And Conan number 21 is 20 cents. The price went down. So this must be this must be a really thick issue, but it doesn't say. It says bonus, but it doesn't say 56 page special edition or anything. Very interesting question indeed. Folks, I will buy anything from Marvel that is 20 cents. Anything. So this is an interesting piece. It's the Joe Kubert School presents First Folio with a Joe Kubert cover that's really nice. And I think this is where he puts his students in a comic, maybe. This is put out by PC, Pacific Comics, and I don't know. I never saw this before, so I'll have to flip through that. Here is some Atlas Comics, and this is some war stuff. Blazing Battle Tales featuring Sergeant Hawk. And look who the artist is on this. It's Frank Thorne working for Atlas. This is great. 25 cents, and just like a real pulp cover. Yvette must be inside. Let's pick up the plans and beat it. Little do they know it's an ambush. Here I picked up a John Buscema Conan. At least the cover is John Buscema. I think the insides are. And there's a big fold in it here. I don't know if you can see that, but this thing got like closed in a door or something. So that's why it was cheap, cheap, cheap. Look at this. So this is Tim Vigil.
Yeah, I got that. I got
Oh,
that.
you do?
Yeah.
So it looks like a Silver Wolf Comics. How many comic companies? There was Rebel Studios. There was North Star. There was like so many of these publishers, and I think Tim Vigil was like just like banging around for years and years before he really hit the big time with his Faust and all of his big titles. But great cover, Dragon Quest
It's
by
a good
Silver
book.
Wolf.
I think it's two. I think it's 2 issues. I have both. It's
Yeah,
good.
this is
Yeah, I mean,
this is
it's in
number
right
one.
at the beginning.
Yeah,
Right at the beginning.
and here it is, just sitting there for $1 at the Comic Con. Here's another Conan for 20 cents.
I
Gil
love
Kane.
that one. That's one of my
Oh
favorites.
no, that's not Gil Kane. That is John Romita cover. I could tell,
Yeah.
or maybe it's both of them. It looks like Gil Kane's like style on the leg, but I'm thinking Romita. That face, the shadow on the tomb. Hold on, I have to mute my. And let's see, second to last one is John Buscema with Red Sonja on the cover.
Nice.
The Fiend and the Flame. This is great stuff. And the insides was John Buscema and the Krusty Bunkers, which means that it was just kind of a group effort to get the thing inked. And something's wrong with this one in the back. There's some kind of condition problems. This one got like run over by a steamroller or something. That's why it's so cheap. And then what is this? This final one here is the second edition of Dragon Quest. The Nightmare Begins.
Nice.
And yeah, this cover's a little weird. The black shadow is a little harsh for me. I think maybe that didn't reproduce well, but it seems like they should have just had some, more, I guess, reasonable shading over the mouth. They just kind of leave the edge lining and you lose everything. But this is Dragon Quest, and let me see if I could just grab the year, 1987. And here you see Tim Vigil starting to be the Tim Vigil that we know. He's just really a good, artist, superheroes, horror, all that kind of stuff, just a classic. All right, so that's it. And I don't know how we're doing on time, but
we're wrapping it up.
Yep.
We're at the 50-minute mark. We like to keep these bite-sized episodes so we can get these people back to reading comic books, making them if they choose to. Other than what you have shown us there, which is I guess almost the entire haul at your Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, we just have one more stack to do next time.
Cool. So next week. But other than that, Jake, that's all I got. Anything for these good people as we head out?
No, check out our channels. We have the Comics That Influence. We have the Creator Exchange. And we also have our teaser for sale. This is only the first 6 pages, but it's being used to promote our series and shows you what the whole first edition will look like in terms of style and pacing. So feel free to go ahead and order that if you want.
Bagged and boarded.
Bagged and boarded. Yeah, we won't be making any more of those once we get the second teaser going.
Correctamundo. All right,
so
then, Jake. I will see you
guys
next